Okay, grade 7, welcome to your weekend homework. 8 questions, all in preparation for your Chapter 4 final test. The first question proved to be probably the trickiest for a lot of people. It said, what fraction and decimal is this particular point? Well, since we know it starts at 0 and it ends at 2, the midway point between it, or the halfway point, has to be the number 1. And if that's the number 1, then what has to be here is half. As a fraction, we represent it as half, or half as a decimal would be 0.5. Question 2 is 2 parts. The first part says 0.2 is less than, greater than, or equal to 1/5. Well, the answer is they're equal. And what we can do is we can change them both to, let's change them both to percentages. So 2/10 is really 20 hundredths, which is really 20%. And 1/5, if I multiply this by 20, is really 20 hundredths, which is equal to 20%. So in effect, they are both equal. And I could have changed 1/5 to a decimal too. I could have taken my calculator, and I could have done 1 divided by 5 if I wanted to use my calculator, and I get decimal 2. Either way, I know that both of those, 0.2 or 2/10 and 1/5, are equal. In the second example, we have 22% and 13 over 50. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change them both to decimals this time. You can do it either way, but I'm going to change them to decimals. So 22% is 22 out of 100, which is 22 hundredths. 13 out of 50, I can either go 13 divided by 50, but because it's a base 50, I know that if I create an equivalent fraction out of 100, I know I could write it as a decimal. In this case, it's going to be 26 hundredths, which is 0.26. So which one's the greatest? It's this one, so I have to eat that side. So I have to put is greater than. So 22% is less than 13 fiftieths. Question 3 says $24. Calculate these 8 mental math percentages of them. So for this one, 50% is half, so we're going to get half $24 is $12. 25%, we said, was half of half, so since half is $12, 25% is going to be half of that, which is $6. For 10%, we simply take our decimal, and in $24, our decimal is actually at the end of the number. And if we move it one spot over, we get $2.04. But we know that with money, we need 2 decimal places. So 2.40, or $2.40 is your answer. For 1%, I simply take my decimal and move it twice over. In this case, I would have 24 cents. Now 5% is one of those half ones. If we look at 10%, which is $2.40, 5% is really half of 10%. So we have $1.20 for 5%. And 11%. For mental math, we could take 10% plus 1%, and that would give us 11%. So since we know both of those, we're going to take $2.40 plus 24 cents, add them together, we get $2.64. For 6%, we're going to take 5%, which we know, and 1%, which we know, and those added together will be 6%. 5% is $1.20. 1% is 24 cents. So we get $1.44 for our answer. And the last one, 99%. If we take all of it, or 100%, and take away 1%, that would give us 99%. 100% of $24 is $24. Take away 24 cents, we get $23.76. Next question says, which is largest? And it gives us 21%, 0.3, and 246 out of 888. So the first thing I'm going to do is choose what I'm going to convert them all to. Since they're all, one's a fraction, one's a decimal, one's a percent, it doesn't matter. I'm going to choose all the decimals. So I'm going to keep 0.3, but I'm going to put a 0 on there just to make it easier to see. 21% is 21 hundredths, which would be 0.21. And the last one, 246 over 888, I'm going to need a calculator for this one. So I'm going to grab my calculator, and I go 246 divided by 888. That gives me the decimal, which is approximately 0.278, or roughly 0.28. So if I look at percentages, this is definitely the largest, so your answer for that question is B is your largest. Your second largest is C, and your smallest is A. Next question, we have a table to complete. It gives us the fraction, the decimal, and the percent. So the first fraction is 1/20th. What is that as a decimal? Well, there's two ways you can do it. You can go 1 divided by 20 with a calculator, or think of equivalent fractions. So I'm going to multiply this by 5. I'm going to get 5 out of 100, which is a good one because right now I know that that's 5%. And as a decimal, it's 5/100ths, which is 0/10 and 5/100ths. The next one is 8/10. So as a decimal, it's that, but as a fraction, it's 8/10. In lowest terms, both are divisible by 2. In lowest terms, that same fraction is 4/5. So 8/10 is acceptable, so is 4/5, but usually on a test you have to put your answers in lowest terms. The next question is, what is that as a percentage? So I'm going to keep 8/10, and I'm going to change it to a percent by making an equivalent fraction out of 100. That would be 80 out of 100, which is 80%. And the last question says 6%. What's that as a decimal? Well, in order to get it as a decimal, I first have to think of it as a fraction. So the easiest fraction to make it would be 6 out of 100, because that's 6%. But in lowest terms, both are divisible by 2, giving you a lowest term fraction of 3/50ths. And finally, as a decimal, I can use this one right here to write it as a decimal. It's 6/100ths, which is 0/10 and 6/100ths, 0.06. Your next question says a $28 t-shirt is discounted 25%. What is the sale price? Question mark. Well, if I want to use a calculator, I guess say 25%, which is 25 over 100. 25%, which is 25 over 100, which is 0.25, of $28. 25% of $28. Since of in mathematics is generally thought of as being multiplication, I can take my calculator and go decimal 25% of $28, and I get $7. But that's not my answer. It says it's discounted by $7. So the next step is to take your $28 t-shirt, subtract your $7 discount, and you get $21 as your final answer. That's the sale price. The next question says a $26,000 car is taxed 15%. What is the final price? So 15% of $26,000 will be 15% of $26,000. So with a calculator, 15% of $26,000 is $3,900. So the amount of tax I need to pay on that $26,000 car is $3,900. Add that to your $26,000 car, and you get $29,900. The next question is, which is greater, 112 over 213 or 268 over 536? So if I grab my calculator, I know I'm going to need it. I'm going to change both of these to decimals. 112 divided by 213 is this decimal, 0.5 to roughly 6, which is roughly 52.6%. And we know that because it's 526 thousandths, which is equal to 52.6 hundredths, which is equal to approximately 52.6%. The next one, 268 divided by 536 is exactly 0.5 or 5/10, which is 50 hundredths, which is exactly, not approximately, 50%. So which one's larger, 52.6% or 50%? The answer is this is your largest. Okay, those are all your questions for your weekend homework. The video only took you 9 minutes and 12 seconds to watch. So if you copied all of the questions, it would only take you 10 minutes and 15 seconds probably to do all your homework.